Hello everyone, welcome back to our English channel. Today we're going to discuss something which usually discussed by students about the difference between acquisitions and learning with me, Pak Afif Ikhwanul Muslimin. So firstly, talking about acquisitions and learning, we're going to discuss from its focus. So the focus of acquisitions is about there should be comprehensible input. So when there is a baby and humans would like to get the language, they should have what is called as comprehensible input from the environment. So the father and mother, they have to give sufficient input for the baby or the human to get the language. When the parents are talkative and the environment always desires to attract the human to speak and to use the language input will be comprehensible and it will helps to boost the development of the language. And when we are talking about learning, so talking about learning, it's talking about there will be an objective or output that should be achieved during the learning. So every teaching and learning process, the teachers always have what is called as goal and objective that students must achieve. That's why output is very important and become the focus in learning. And because there is a certain target in language learning, so the teachers always make rules that must be obeyed and followed by students in order to manage and control the students' progress in language learning. And second one is talking about consciousness. Consciousness is about the human awareness to know whether they are in the process of understanding that they are in the process of learning or they do not aware about that. When we are talking about acquisitions happens naturally. That's why it's called as a subconscious process. So in the process of a baby acquiring the language from the parents, they are not actually inside the classroom taught by the parents, taught the language, but they just use their physics to grab the language from the listening and also try to practice by speaking. So the baby is just trying to follow what the parents do, and then the baby subconsciously acquire the language. And also when the children mingle with the friends in the environment, they subconsciously acquire the pattern of the language that they got from their friends communications. And talking about learning, it's called as conscious process because the students and humans that would like to get the language, they should go to a certain situations which is already requested them to be aware that they are in the process of learning. So it's called as conscious because they have to go to like school or course. That's why when talking about learning, the learner, they have to go to a formal setting which is called as school or formal courses, and there will be a teachers there will be materials, a guided book that the students are forced and learners are forced to follow the pattern to grab the achievement in the language. But when we are talking about acquisitions, the human got the language spontaneously from the practice in daily communications from the environment, and also there will be an informal setting there, like when the human goes to market, they are beginning to buy something. There will be communications between buyer and seller, and also when they meet their friends, neighborhood. So it means that acquisitions, the human acquire the language from the informal situations, not by set situations. Talking about the grammar, of course, because acquisitions happened in subconscious process, and also it is in informal setting. So the grammar here is not the important point in acquisitions, but the human who try to get the language, the human use what is called as feeling grammar. So they just say that I think I have to use this kind of pattern when I would like to say ideas, just like what my friend said before. Oh, I think I have to use this word in writing because my friends and my teacher uh, told says these things. So they got the pattern based on their assumptions, based on their experience, not based on the grammar book. But in learning, there is a gradations from the easiest grammar rules to the hardest that they have to remember. Then they have to retain it inside their mind, and they have you practice it again and again gradually to make sure that they are mastering the grammar's rules. So in acquisitions, the existence of what is that acoustical learning process is very important. So the employment of the ear to grab the information from the partner to communicate is very important. The process of mingling with the social environment is very important. While in learning, because it is done consciously and it is in a formal setting, so the existence of intelligence is very important. The more intelligence the students or the learner, the better they will achieve the language. So just like when we are learning language in our school, whether it is learning English or other languages, so it needs our ability to absorb all the informations and materials inside our mind, and we have to retain it, we have to practice it, and later on, if we do not use it frequently, sometimes we will lose some of the information in our mind. So the acquisitions um, is what is that? Acquisition is the result of social communications and natural setting compared to the learning, which is required to be exist in formal setting. And I'm talking about the best period when the human acquired language is about 0 to 6 or 7 years old. So there is a term what's called as golden age that we're going to discuss in another video. But in learning, it usually appears to the human that stand after puberty. So usually we start to learn the language when we are in elementary schools, and then it appears after our puberty. It means that um, it's gonna be our second language, not our first language. So talking about the result, in acquisitions, it's gonna be indelible because it appears naturally and we got it from the environment since we were born, and it tends to be our native language, then it's gonna be our mother tongue. Compared to the learning, when we are learning the language as a second language or foreign language in a formal setting like school, sometimes we forgot some of the grammar rules, we forgot some dictions, we forgot the way how to pronounce some vocabulary because um, we got it from something which is conscious, and it relates to intelligence. When our intelligence is influenced by fatigue or nervous or anxiety or something else, or maybe aphasia or another kind of brain damage, of course sometimes we can forget some of the language that we learn. And also related to the productions, somehow that our pronunciations is quite a little bit different, or maybe quite far different with the native like, because the way we acquire got the language is not from the real situations, but we got it from the process of learning. That's why, because it is related to the intelligence, which is owned differently by every human. That's why the result of the learning will be varied competence in language. That's why different human will get different language competence. So this is all our discussions about the difference between acquisitions and learning. Keep learning English. See you later.